have Susan Roberts. I'm very happy to have her. She's an expert in many fields, and most recently she's been touring the country giving a seminar on helping parents nationwide with the eating problems of their children, especially picky eaters. It's a 6-hour seminar. I told her to keep it to 4 hours, so settle down. No, it's not. I think, Susan, you can take over, but it's, I think she's going to give a bit of an introduction, and we're going to try to keep it as interactive as possible. We found with small groups that's the most rewarding for everybody. So, Susan Roberts.
Thank you, and it's really fun to be here. And there are, for those of you who are new, they have wonderful, wonderful speakers here. So I'm following in the footsteps of some very wonderful speakers. And every time I come, I learn something new, and I get to use it oftentimes. I do a 6-hour continuing education program called Mealtime Success for Kids on the Spectrum, Integrative Nutrition for Picky Eaters. And primarily I have occupational therapists, speech pathologists, and registered dietitians, but I also get a smattering of other disciplines as well, and parents who come to take it, and sometimes some of the professionals are also parents, and they've signed up so they can get continuing education, but they're really there because they're interested in what's going on with their own child. So I've been really lucky to do that, and I've learned a lot from the people I've talked to, just as I've learned so much from the kids that I've worked with. And I've been an occupational therapist now for a long time, almost 40 years. And I was just telling somebody I started. She said, "When did you start?" I said, "I started in an Easterfield camp washing dishes." But I fell in love, and I've been on the short bus ever since. So I studied occupational therapy at Boston University, and then after I'd been in practice about 7 years, by then I was living in Arizona, I got interested in traditional healing rituals and the sensory integration of healing tradition. And that just reminds me, I didn't turn mine off either. That's okay. Hopefully mine won't ring. So I got interested in that, and I ended up at Harvard Divinity School. That was where I had 3 years to study that, and that was really useful. And I would go back across the river to Boston University and talk to people in occupational therapy about the sensory integration piece, and then I got the rest of it over at Harvard. And so I've been sort of pulling that all together. And right now my practice is primarily I do a lot of teaching and passing on a lot of things that I've learned over the years, and also working with families, working with kids, and my focus is on happy kids, raising happy kids for a peaceful world. And happy kids rarely get sick, they eat healthy meals, they sleep through the night, they make friends, they succeed in school, and they wake up excited to start a new day. And what I always say is, we may not be able to cure autism or cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy or all the different things that we see kids have, but we can help them find happiness, and that's the doorway through which healing occurs. And so that's really my focus. And what I bring to the whole, there's a lot of people working on meal times. There's a tremendous number of people out in the field doing various aspects of it. And I think that what I bring to this that's just a little bit different than all the other people, a lot of the therapists are really interested in the oral motor skills and really doing that. And I also really kind of felt like if I could get kids to chew and swallow, my work was finished and I'm out of the picture. And then it became clearer to me that what they ate was as important as that they were able to have those oral motor skills. And I took a year at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, learned a bunch more about nutrition, learned about integrative nutrition. We look at the food that we eat as well, but we also look at what we call primary foods, which is for adults, it's physical activity, career, relationship, and spirituality. And play is the primary occupation of childhood, really. So I focus a lot on play as well, not just on the food and the nutrition, but healing through play. And for kids, physical activity is outdoor play, and all of our kids have less of that than they used to. And particularly special needs kids get even more restricted in terms of their outdoor play. So, I really stress that's important. Outdoor play, our relationships for kids is the social play that they play with other kids, and then and adults and other people, and then usually I have a slide up, but it just seems easier to just talk without slides. Career for spirituality for kids is imaginary play. That's where we expand our horizons. We go inside and find our creative sources. So imaginary play is another really important aspect. And then career. For kids, career is everything adults want you to do. Your homework, your schoolwork, your chores, your getting dressed, all the different things that we do. And what I say to the therapist, if you look at what we focus on in our therapies, we're focusing really on career for kids. And they're starving, literally starving for play. And so it's really important to bring that in. And so I talk about emotional development, and I use this is Rebecca's school is a DIR school, floor time school. And I first found out about floor time because I had a play-based clinic in Tucson, Arizona, and I would have 2-hour play sessions. We had a 3-hour on Saturday night once a month, which was really nice. It's called Kids Night Out. But it was really about Parents' Night Out as well. But we would have 2-hour play groups, and one of the parents came in and said, "Oh, you're doing floor time here," and I said, "What's that?" So I looked it up on the internet, and I read about it, and it sounded wonderful, so I took a course online with Dr. Greenspan, and then I got a job here. And so I just finished paying $500 to take this wonderful course, and watching Dr. Greenspan and his son and other people, and Rosemary White through a little, through my little video screen. And then like a couple months later, I got to sit in the front row here. In the front row, I had a front row seat for a live performance. And they were paying me to sit in my seat. So it was really a wonderful opportunity. I worked here for about 6 months and got a lot. But so I take that, I sort of pull that developmental, the emotional development stages that Dr. Greenspan came up with, and I sort of pull the play piece into that, and then I really take a good look at nutrition and spend a lot of time. For the therapist particularly, the dietitians have heard it before, of course, but the therapist really sort of focusing on food and what food is. And I try to make it simple because it's very complex, and one of the things I try to teach therapists is that you need to start talking to dietitians because they're not usually readily accessible to us in the therapy world. So what so I sort of, teach them how to work with dietitians and get that information. But I try to keep it simple. I use Michael Pollan's food rules, which is eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And if you can do that, that's great. Eating food is the tricky bit, and I spend a lot of time talking about that. And one of my little props that I have is, I'll just show it to you. I have a lot of things. As I said, I do this as a 6-hour lecture, and the most consistent responses I get is that it should be 2 days. And when I work with families, I've done courses, it'll stretch out for 6 months, because just teaching each little piece and letting people get comfortable with it. But this is one of my favorite props, and I brought it. And this is what I put a teaspoon of sugar in all these little bags. And I always say, we call these nickel bags in New York, but I'll tell you, they call them nickel bags everywhere I've been. And it's how you make street drugs affordable. And I just really want people, and some of the bags aren't full because I think sometimes TSA goes through the bag. But anyhow, what I do is this is so I can count out, what did you have for breakfast? What did you have for, lunch, dinner? And it's nothing to have 40 of these bags on a plate. So we talk about that, and I really want people to begin thinking about sugar as a drug and thinking about it as, because it is addictive and it does lead to more dangerous drugs like insulin and many of the other drugs that treat many of the chronic health conditions that we have today. So what I've learned, though, about when I work with parents is that they all already know that their children are eating things they shouldn't be. I spend time with a therapist saying, don't use food rewards, don't use Cheetos. We really have to help. We have to help expand their diet. But most of the time, parents already know that their kids are not eating what they want them to eat. So I'm going to spare you that piece of it. And although I'm happy to talk more about it, I bring my library with me, so I have some books here. One of them is not, these are just photocopied, so I have the cover, the front and back cover, and the table of contents. So these are some of the books that I have used and recommend when I'm talking. And then Kelly Dorfman, who comes to these meetings and who's spoken before, she's just got a new book out, and she's a dietitian, and it looks like it's going to be an excellent book. And I myself am going to be working on a book this summer in Maine. I'm going to be in Maine all summer and writing and doing treatment. If people come up to Maine, there's a house right next to me on a lake that's available for rent. So if you want to take a vacation and get treatment at the same time, talk to me later. But at any rate, I'm going to go write a book, and I'm hoping, I'm planning to call it My Kid Eats Everything, and it's really going to be all the different steps that you could do to expanding your child to go from picky eating to adventurous eating. And how do we do that? And how do we make it fun? And I have 4 very strict rules when I work with kids, and when I do everything that I do, I always have the 4 very strict rules. And when kids would come to my clinic, it was cleverly disguised as a house. So they'd see couches, and we had rugs on the mats, and it was Arizona, so we could put all of our swings out in the backyard because it didn't rain. And it just looked like a regular house, but it had a lot of really fun toys in it. And I would tell kids after they came for the initial visit, do you want to come back? We have 4 very strict rules. This one little boy says to me, I know. No kicking, no hitting, no fighting, no biting. And I said, no, the first rule is have fun. And he was like, oh, finally somebody came up with a rule he could follow. He was so excited. And I said, can you do that? And he's like, yes, I can do that. I said, the second rule is play safely, and that means you have to listen. Sometimes when I tell you something's not safe, or when one of the other therapists tells you something's not safe, you have to listen. Can you do that? And he said, yes. And he was lying to me, but his heart was in the right place. But, can you make friends? Yes. Can you use your imagination? Yes. Great. So we're all in. So that's my rules. So the first rule, of course, with eating is to have fun. And oftentimes it's not fun for our kids to eat. A lot of times they have GI issues, which we had Dr. Krigsman come and talk about that in depth. They have GI issues which make eating unpleasant, and they have sensory issues that make eating unpleasant. And one of the sensory issues that I think we don't think about as much, and I just started thinking about it actually because I've been, doing this talk that I do, and that is a lot of our kids on the spectrum really have trouble with balance and with vestibular function and that. And one of the things that happens when your vestibular system, which is your balance center in your inner ear, and it connects all over your whole body and brain, one of the things that happens is that you get motion sick. So if you have motion sickness all the time, you're not going to eat. You're not going to have much of an appetite. And if you have GI problems, you're not going to have much of an appetite. So those are 2 of the things that we need to check out before we do anything. We really want to find out that the GI system's good. And we want to make sure that swallowing is safe, because if you can't manage breathing and swallowing and chewing, which is a tricky bit of coordination, and you choke, then it gets really scary to eat, and it's scary for parents if the child is choked. And so, so that could be another thing that happens.